All right. So, welcome to your next big project before spring break. So, you're not going to have any daily assignments. Of course, I encourage you to stay physical, stay active, but this is what you're going to be working on. So, you can either replicate my practice sheet, which I will provide for you in your assignment. And you can see not only do I have each pose, each part, each sequence is numbered, and then I also have the little breath notes as well. So this is what you're going to be creating. You can copy this exact thing with photos of yourself. You can take poses out, add poses in if you've been modifying your sequence. But this is our next step at making practice sheets. And the second page, of course, will have a list of all the pose names. All right, so you'll be getting in your assignment this kind of version here. So it's completely blank. Second page is blank, and it prompts you to write in the pose names. The third slide is a workspace slide for altering your photos. We'll get to that in a moment. And then the last slide is just a reference for you to copy and paste all these little symbols that go into the final product, as you can see here. All right. So the first thing you would have done is, of course, your sequence. Now, if you're using mine, that's completely fine. You can use that to take the photos of yourself. You can either save those onto your computer, onto your desktop, or into a folder, or you can put them into your Google Drive. That's up to you. But when it comes time to put them in, it's sometimes helpful to have a little one slide just to resize your photos. So you're not doing that over the top of everything. Because as things get more complex, when you copy and paste and the picture is really big, it becomes difficult. So I recommend having a dedicated slide just to crop and resize the photos. So first, let's bring a photo on. So I'm on my workspace slide. I'm going to, I can say insert image from here, or I could go to this little icon, little shortcut. Now my photos are on my computer, so I'm going to upload from computer. Alternatively, you might have a folder in your Google Drive that has all your yoga photos. So for me, I'm going to upload from my computer. The second one is Shavasana, so we'll start with that. And here we go. So we see Shavasana, it's way too big to fit into the sequence. I need it to be much smaller, as you can see here. So the first thing I want to do per the instructions is I want to crop. So I want to remove all the unnecessary background. So this window, the plants. And how I do that is I'm going to double click. So I'm going to go onto the picture and double click it. And that gives me these black rectangle bars. So then from here, I can take them and pull them as close to the body as I can without cutting it off. And I'm going to do that on all sides. All right, now once I'm done, I'm going to go off of the image and click, and now it's cropped. So my first thing is done, so that's one. Now I have to resize it. All right, and I've included these two reference boxes. So if it's a standing pose, I'd want to fit it in here, going up and down, but this is not a standing pose, so I'm going to instead put it into this box. And you can see how these little red lines pop up. These can be really helpful with getting you to align stuff later on. Now, as you can see in the resize, we're going to be using the blue squares, so not the black bars anymore. And we always want to use the corner. If I were to use one of them that's not a corner, it's going to smush my body and it's going to take it out of its ratio. So always use the corner, and I'm going to pull it until it's even with my box, and there we go. So now, although I'm not utilizing this space up here, it still fits within my box. Now, I can control or command X, and that cuts it. And now I'm going to go back to my first slide. You can see the little reference point. So I'm going to click it up here and hit control or command V, like Victor. Now, for some reason, it pastes wherever it wants to, so you're going to have to move it around a little bit. But I've got my first photo on, and if I look at the model sheet, it looks just like it. All right, so now I want to add the numbers. This is the first pose in the sequence. So I'm going to go here. Now, every time I go to choose something, I'll hold down Shift and then I click it. And that allows me to copy it, paste it, move it. If I just clicked onto it, I'll show you. If I just click onto the number, it won't let me move it. It's kind of wanting me to edit it and change the number 1. I don't want to change the number 1. So I'm going to hit Control. I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to click it, and then I'm going to hit Control C. I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to go back to my Shavasana. I'm going to hit Control V. And now again, I have to move it. And instead of, you can see when I go to grab it here, it wants to give me these arrows in different directions. It's so small. If I were to do that, it would resize it. So I'm going to use my arrow keys on my keypad here to move this around. You can also get in there and find the sweet spot. Let me see if I can find it. Gosh, it's so hard. Or I can conversely click off of it, hit Shift, and then grab on, and then it should allow me. No, it's not. Shift. And once I hold down Shift, then I can move it around. There we go. And then I'll put my number in place, and then there we go. How's it looking? Can I compare it? Awesome. Now this is going to be done for 5 breaths. Okay, so now I go back to my symbol sheet. I look, okay, here's 5 breaths. Hold down Shift, click it, and then Control C for copy. Go back to my first page, Control V to paste. Again, it's all over the place. Rather than grab onto it, what you could do, see it's giving me the multi-dimensional arrow. That tells me I'm moving it. If I had a different arrow, that would be resizing. So I have my multi-dimensional arrow. This is big enough for me to do that. Or I can just use my arrow keys to move it around. And let's have a look. Bam, that looks pretty good. All right. So that are some of the basics for what you're going to be doing. Again, you can modify your sequence so it's not quite as long. You can copy this exactly. Just make sure you have all of your stages of your sequence numbered. Make sure you have breath transitions. How do I get from one pose to the next? How do I get from mountain to hands up overhead? I inhale into it. If I hang out in a pose, I indicate that with a circle. And then, of course, when I need to write little notes, I can add little notes in here as needed. Again, this is going to be individual to you if you've been changing your sequence a little bit, but this is your next really big challenge in creating a practice sheet from scratch. After spring break, you'll be creating your own sequence entirely. Now, good luck, and email me if you have any questions along the way.